All right. Ross Stewart Campbell, welcome to the future of fitness, my friend.
Thank you so much, Eric. Good to be here, my friend.
Yeah. I've been doing this for almost 7 years, man. And I don't think I've had you on the podcast, which is remarkable to me. And I'm a little ashamed, to be honest with you. So thanks. I'm so glad we finally made this happen. You and I have had multiple conversations over the years. And yeah, man, you're doing great work. So there's a lot to talk about with you.
Appreciate it. Look, I've been a big fan from afar from the Future of Fitness podcast. You have done some incredible interviews. We listen to them, not just myself, but the team as well. So the shame cuts both ways, but I'm very glad we're here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, let's start with this. I think there's always a good place to start, Ross. It's just like, I don't know actually a lot about your backstory. So I'm curious about it. Like, how did you get to, where you're at with Beyond Active? And then I think that's a really good launching point for the rest of our conversation.
Yeah, looking for those that don't know, I think I spent my early part of my career in investment events. We used to run a number of large-scale CEO-level investment events for oil and gas and commodities. So we connected the bankers and the brokers and the oil and gas executives with investors and analysts and financiers. And we ran a very successful business network across 5 continents. We held 10, 11 events a year, Calgary to New York to China to Singapore to Lagos to South Africa. And in founding that company, we kind of grew it to, I think, what I thought was going to be its critical mass. We then sold my interest in that company once I moved to Asia. And to try and escape the rat race, Eric, I ended up buying a gym. And so that was my first foray into the business of fitness. I quickly realized that was a bit of a naive passion project. And so I love fitness, but I am not an operator. And I think through the conversations I had, through my trials and tribulations of being an operator, sparked the idea that actually we need a network in Asia that represented the health and fitness market. And so we tried to adopt the same business model of content, community, thought leadership, business development. And we aimed at not through oil and gas, but through fitness and health and wellness. And so that was the ride that started FitSummit back in 2018. And that kind of evolved and morphed into Beyond Activ last year. And here we are today.
Yeah. So a couple of things I want to circle back on and unpack a little bit. Why a gym? Why did you decide to open a gym?
I've been a fitness fanatic all my life, Eric. I really have. I mean, I absolutely love working out, workouts. I love the culture of gyms. I've been into sports and performance, not at a professional level, just as a pure play enthusiast since I was about 14 years old. And so for me, it's a passion of mine. It's a hobby, it was an interest, and I thought I could do something with it that I wanted to do. So I think when people always tell you when you leave the corporate life, make sure you do something you love. For me, the natural gravity was towards fitness. And so I tried my hand at the business of fitness, but not so much in the B2C world. I need to remain in the B2B world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is. I find a lot of people who are corporate refugees, right? They kind of come out of the world and they always do have a natural passion for fitness and health, and they get into it. Same thing as they'll get buy a franchise or they'll start their own gym, and then the operations thing comes to. And frankly, the same story happens with somebody who's a great coach who's been in the industry for a long time, and then they start owning a gym and they realize like the operating thing is all consuming at times. So when you realized, to your quote, that you're not an operator, like what was it? Well, what brought that decision to light?
Question. I think it was more the day-to-day conversations. And then I think what I wanted to try and do was create a job that I really had a passion for. Where I thought I fell down being an operator from a gym is I started to miss the conversations I used to have working at such a high level in the oil and gas market. And we were talking with CEOs or C-suite executives all day, every day, with bankers and financiers, and the conversations around economics and growth, technology, investment, deal flow. I mean, there was some really interesting conversations, and I was very privileged to be a part of that industry for so long. When I moved into the world of being an operator, those conversations changed very differently into personal journeys of members, more logistical challenges of running a business, everything from cash flow down to toiletries to washing towels, etc. And so it was a very, very different conversation. In addition, I love the idea of helping people. Like that's really what our job is at Beyond Activ, is to try and serve the world to be happier and healthier. It's just that I think when we were doing this operatorship, I think I found a bigger purpose, and that bigger purpose was almost like a eureka moment where it said, actually, if you move back into the B2B world, and had these same conversations with the CEOs of health, fitness, and wellness businesses, you can make a bigger impact in the world by doing that. And that was the trigger switch for me jumping back from being an operator in the fitness world to becoming more of a business network, an event company, a media group within health, fitness, and wellness.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how you got to merge kind of your previous experience with your passion for fitness and what you learned as an operator. It is, being a gym operator is not always that full of glory, I guess you could say. A lot of it was like dealing with like issues in the parking lot, or one of the one of the toilets is clogged, or one of your coaches is dating one of the clients. Like it's not what the image that you think when you're getting into it. It doesn't always turn out that way.
I think it's a great, it's part of the career pathway, right? I think you become a club general manager or a club owner. And then I think over time, like many people that we know now in the marketplace have done, you become a business owner, a brand owner, a franchisor, a multi-site owner. And so your job gravitates away from the day-to-day consumer talk and naturally more into the kind of business conversations about running an operational and management team rather than running programming and membership rates. So I was incredibly grateful for the 3 years that I spent being an operator. It taught me a lot. The friendships I've made, the connections I've made, the insights of being an operator are absolutely invaluable. I would never take that back. And that pathway has given me this new light. So forever grateful, but I am forever in admiration of those that do that job. It is not easy.
Yeah, right on. Well, tell us about the evolution of Beyond Activ. Like, what was the first iteration of the FitSummit? What was that like? When was it? And then how, it's evolved quite a bit. Just looking at, I followed you guys over the years, and even just the rebrand of Beyond Activ and the extensive kind of amount of content and how the events have evolved and the number of them. You're a global industry, you're a global enterprise now, man. You're all over the place. So yeah, give some insights. How has that thing started and how has it evolved?
Yeah, I suppose from small acorns, mighty oaks grow. We're not quite there yet, but I think we're trying to get on that way. Look, initially it was a very independent networking exception that happened in Singapore. And it was the gym owners that we could find meeting with distributors and suppliers and technology companies. And the goal was to try and stress test the market and having an annual event. An annual event in Singapore that was a business-to-business conference that brought in investors, and we could have those deep, meaningful conversations across the value chain in terms of trying to add value to everyone's business. And the goal was always to try and grow the marketplace, grow the size of the industry by attracting new investment, by bettering thought leadership, by encouraging thought leadership, by improving standards, by educating those that are coming into the marketplace, and making better decisions around equipment and technology purchases. And so it started off very much as like one summit. And look, FIT was fitness investment technology. And the summit obviously started in Singapore. Initially, then we grew into Indonesia, into Thailand, into Hong Kong. We had events there. And then I think the content that we had to try and naturally form around that community started to be newsletters, podcasts, webinars, small scale magazines. And so the goal was always connectivity, thought leadership, and business development. And if you have those three parts of the triangle, to some part, they serve everyone every single day. So you're developing business for them, you're providing thought leadership, or you're making sure that Rolodex is connected. And I think we obviously built the business up very well. We had a great reputation in the Asia Pacific marketplace. And then, of course, COVID hit. And I won't bog you down in a story about how we were smashed, but we got absolutely hammered. We went from I would say a significant, but a growing revenue company into essentially a negative revenue company. Not zero revenue, negative revenue. People were wanting refunds on future purchases. And so we went into quite a dark place in 2020. We had to evolve very quickly into digital events, into making sure we had these virtual events online for thousands of people. And we tried to monetize those over the next couple of years. And that basically blended into a new augmentation of a digital offering. And so we basically became a kind of agency, like a PR company, part email activations, part marketing, email connections, marketing support, business development support, email connections. And then all these things started to augment together into a kind of digital offering that we then started to interact year round. And through the back of the pandemic, without having to bore you too much, we evolved from essentially a revenue company that was an events company into a digital marketing agency with an events offering. And then that kind of blended its way to not just event-specific revenue, but also essentially subscribed revenue or annual subscriptions through retained clients. So the pandemic was actually one of the most brutal business experiences I've ever been through. I mean, literally on the line like everyone else. But if it wasn't for that, our company would never be where it is today. So for that, I am grateful.
Yeah. And you guys have events now. Is it 5 places globally? Like where are you guys doing all your events?
We're doing 4, one in every kind of major continent. So we run one in Sydney for the Australasian marketplace, one in Singapore for the Asian marketplace, one in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for the Europe, Middle East and Africa market. And then of course, one in New York for the Americas market. So 4 events, 4 continents, 1 per quarter. That is enough, my friend. Absolutely no more. Absolutely no more apart from that. But yeah, look, we have kind of morphed ourselves into essentially a global event series. And I think it's, as far as I know, it's the only one in the world that covers 4 continents. And so we've got a great opportunity in front of us. We've got some fantastic partners, but there's still a long way to go. And we've got to prove ourselves in new markets that we're coming into. And one of those is the Americas, and we have big plans, but we've got to set our flag down. We've got to fly it high.
Yeah. So when you say you need to prove yourself in a new market, like what are the standards that you are proving yourself on? Like, are you creating value for your your advertisers? Like, okay, let me rephrase this question. If I'm a fitness brand and I want to engage with Beyond Activ, what is the value that you guys are offering? What do you propose to me, and how is that executed upon?
Yeah, look, great question. Look, I think we're not going to rewrite the wheel entirely. It's not as if the wheel is there's some great people that have gone before us in terms of creating some fantastic events. Our job, I suppose, is to slightly move events forward and how they're conceptualized and how they're executed. And what I mean by that is, we've been for a long time crisscrossing and transversing various verticals: healthcare, wellness, hospitality, fitness, employee well-being. And so we have those individuals and brands and executives represented across our network, across our content, and obviously across our physical event portfolio. When it comes to traditional events in the US, they tend to be in one of those verticals. There isn't much in terms of blending over of that audience. There's great fitness events, great hospitality events, a couple of emerging health and wellness events out there. To my knowledge, there's very, very few that cover all of those verticals in one. Where I think there's also been a lack of, shall I say, opportunity created for the event space in the Americas is the inclusion of the capital markets and investors. Now, having come from a background where we're used to engaging those investors, whether they're private equity, venture capital, high net worth individuals, funds, analysts, the bankers and financiers, whether that's equity or debt, there hasn't really been an event for health, fitness, and wellness in the US that actually combines thought leadership from the sector in addition to investment potential in the sector. The only people that actually do that are some of the incredible investment banks out there. Hooley and Loki, for example, HL, great firm, JP Morgan do their own investment events. These are fantastic banks with fantastic investment conferences. But for us, our job is always to try and grow the wider marketplace. And so in terms of what you're, maybe a long way of answering the question is, our job is to connect the wider marketplace: health, fitness, wellness, hospitality, sports, leisure, recreation, in addition to pull in a number of investors into the marketplace. So when you come to our event, you're not just meeting the same people. You're actually meeting a huge selection of buyers, a huge selection of facility operators, and a really interesting mix of investors and analysts and suppliers that perhaps you don't meet every single day. Then you mix in entertainment, of course, lots of fun. Yes, there will be alcohol served, and we make sure there's plenty of that as well to kind of stir the gears. But it has to be fun, has to be purposeful. You have to have peer-to-peer connectivity with real thought leaders, and you have to have investors in the room. And with that offering, I think we do something quite unique.
Yeah, interesting. So it sounds like it's fairly curated. Is that right?
Has to be curated. Look, I mean, we deal with the C-suite. Why does a C-suite leave their office? Whether it's from Minneapolis, whether it's from Sao Paulo, whether it's from London or Singapore, why do they get on a plane and want to come to an event and spend 2 or 3 days there? There has to be a curation of content. There has to be a curation of individuals in the audience. There has to be a creation of entertainment. There has to be a curation of meeting and experience. All of it has to be created to the highest possible level. So we're good at this. We've had quite a lot of experience in doing it. We never ever underestimate its importance.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the event in September in New York. What's the dates again? I think it's the middle of September, right?
Yeah, 17th to 18th September are the main days at the Marriott Marquis.
So walk me through that. If I sign up for that, oh, I am signed up for that. What can I expect from that event? Like what's the experience like, and what's the desired outcome for me?
Yeah, so look, we've got 2 days of main content over the 17th and 18th of September. Both of those days are inside the Marriott Marquis. We have large leadership stage. We've got 2 breakout rooms. We've got a pop-up exhibition and networking area. We've got content that crisscrosses everything from CEO leadership panels to the emergence of AI, to the growing trends of longevity and health span, looking at founders, financial trends, capital markets trends, the future of the boutique space, and of course, other kind of really pressing trends. We try and curate an agenda of content that's topical to any executive in the marketplace looking to try and understand how to grow their business. So if you're an executive coming to that conference, you're looking for, again, one of those 3 things: ideas and thought leadership on how to grow your business, connectivity to other people in the marketplace for their inspiration and motivation, and then, of course, business development, whether that's prospects or leads or customers, members, guests, partners, or even potential investors. So again, it's coming to that whole day and understanding that across there's a curation of content, a creation of meetings, a creation of exhibition, a creation of food and beverage and experience. So that's going to be the whole first day. At night time, we have a big networking reception. Day 2, we repeat that process again. On day 3, which is the 19th of September, we do something more fun, a little bit more social, right? We take people around New York. We have a networking walk planned across the Central Park in the morning for those that are coming into New York for the day, or for the week, sorry. And then during the afternoon, we'll host a couple of club tours. One of them is going to be at the new Flatiron Club, the new Chelsea Piers one in the afternoon. So again, we have people coming in from all over the world. We've got speakers coming in from Argentina, from London, from Asia, from Dubai, from Brazil, from Colombia, from Ecuador, from Chile. They're coming up to New York for a reason. They're coming up to have a really good time with some great people. They're there to make sure they have a brilliant business experience, but also a brilliant personal experience.
Yeah, awesome, man. I'm very excited. That sounds very unique. I've gone to a decent amount of industry events, but not anything that's quite so global, worldly, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Look, and that's what we have to do. Look, we've got, again, speakers coming from Sydney to come and talk to the marketplace. Speakers coming from India. One of the companies we have is called CultFit. CultFit is a sleeping giant. It's a unicorn in India. It's got over 600 clubs. It's by far and away the biggest operator in India by an absolute country mile. They're going to come over to New York and give their thoughts in the marketplace. And so our goal is not to rehash what's been done before. There have been some brilliant events. There are some brilliant companies in the American marketplace, but we have to cover all of the Americas. And we have to have an interest in all of those that want to visit and invest in the Americas. So whether you are coming from New York, whether you're coming from New Jersey or Massachusetts, or whether you're coming from Singapore or Australia, you're equally welcome at the event. If you've got business interests inside the Americas, we're looking to try and connect you to other people with a similar vein.
Yeah, awesome. When you look outside of the industry, is there any companies in other verticals that you look at, you're like, they're doing exceptionally well? That's something we can, use as a guide or as a framework for what we do.
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to content, look, there's some fantastic companies that do content. Looking at this from a kind of perspective from oil and gas, there's a huge company called IHS Market, an absolutely brilliant company. I think it got taken over by Standard & Poor's recently. There are some brilliant content developers out there that are punching out thought leadership in the highest level, market analysis, annual reports. They're also doing kind of worldwide events. So there are really great content contributors. Our job in content is never to produce what I would say is daily or weekly content. We can obviously amplify and promote the content that's happening in the marketplace, but our job is never to invest in editorial. Our job is always to take content from events, thematics, podcasts, and try and make sure we have more private discussions offline rather than online. There are plenty of people that do it online, and this podcast is a great example of that, Eric. So our job is never to repeat the wheel. Our job is to try and add value into it. When it comes to the event space, look, I mean, there are great events out there. The CES one in Vegas is obviously an absolutely fantastic event, but again, it's maybe more towards aligned towards trade show. And we're not a trade show company. It's not the position we want to try and be in. Trade shows are very sell side centric. We're very buy side centric. So I've got a lot of love for trade shows, but it's not where we want to be. In terms of probably one of the best events in the world, it's probably something like Web Summit. And Web Summit is based out of Portugal, Lisbon, and they have absolutely dominated the technology space in the last few years. I think last year's Tech Summit had something like 60,000 people come to Lisbon for it. It's got a tremendous offering worldwide. It has spin-off events. It is known as the absolute epicenter of venture capital and investment inside the technology marketplace. So there are definitely inspirations, shall I say, Eric, out there in the marketplace. I appreciate that fitness and health and wellness is maybe more of a smaller market, certainly more underappreciated, certainly not as high market capitalization, certainly not as loved by the bankers and analysts and maybe mainstream media. But as an industry, we absolutely love what we do. We love being here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes our industry doesn't do itself any favors. I mean, we're sitting right now after some breaking news on Exponential and Geisler, and you know, it just seems like another black eye as far as what Wall Street sees within our industry. So it's unfortunate, but you know, time washes away all things. So hopefully it'll be forgotten soon, just like every other media cycle we have.
Well, the public markets are not kind to fitness. I don't think the investment community really understands them. But there's a brave few companies that have tried to obviously get into that market and have done well. But yeah, look, Anthony and the team have obviously built an incredible company. There's obviously some holes in that company at some places, and that's been noticed by the number of people that have left the company in the last couple of years. And obviously there's been a groundswell of negativity around the company. But, you know, Exponential Fitness have paved the way for boutique fitness across multiple modalities, across multiple continents for years. And they have done an incredibly good job. And so although this, you know, the news in the past week does taint what's happening with Anthony, I think overall, you know, I think he's paved the way for millions of people to enjoy fitness. And I hope that his legacy will be remembered more favorably.
Yeah, well said. I want to talk about the business of running events. From the outside looking in, and I'm not a super detail-oriented person, so it scares me. Like, it just seems like a lot of details, a lot of work, man. So give me some ideas, like, what is it like running major events like this and being in the business of events as opposed to other industries? I mean, do you wake up some morning and be like, I'm crazy for doing this? Do you love it? I mean, it also seems exhilarating, right? Like the day of an event, or when it's popping off and everything lines up and everything goes the way it should, it just seems like it must be a hell of a thrill. Like, give us some insights into the business of what you guys do.
Yeah, so like, I mean, like any event, you have to pony up the money up front. You essentially have to, you know, you're gambling on venue, gambling on AV, and then of course, over time, you're trying to claw back the necessary money from delegate sales, exhibition sales, and sponsorship sales. With any good event, of course, that gamble becomes less and less. But at the end of the day, running an event company and being involved in events is actually quite a stressful marketplace. You know, especially when you're dealing with timelines and deadlines, you're in a constant cycle, depending upon how quickly that production cycle turns around. So, you know, we try and work on our events at the very least 6 months to 9 months to 12 months in advance. So we're already plotting our February event in Riyadh next year, and we have to do that. So that sales cycle and production cycle is quite quick. You know, there's a survey done maybe about a few years ago that was about the most stressful jobs in the world, and being an event executive, certainly an operational event executive, was one of the top 5 most stressful jobs in the world. And having seen what operational teams go through, I can fully understand why. It is juggling balls, running 100 miles an hour, running into very changing budgets with often with a lack of visibility in terms of total overall revenue and sales into the last moment. So it's chicken and egg. It is putting your kahunas on the line most of the time, and you really have to back your team. And look, it's about backing the product, backing the team, and backing the process. And if you can get all that right, then it's just about, can you get market penetration to the right people? Because with the right product and the right market at the right price, it should sell.
I mean, it feels like to me, once again, outsider looking in, that expectations of the attendees and consumers are very high. And a lot of the things that make these things hum are very underappreciated, right? Like the little details. So would you agree?
Yeah, man, it is look, you're only judged by the success of your last event. And that's the
Yeah.
harsh reality of it. We could pull off 10 good events in a row. You can have a blip, it happens, right? There's something gone wrong. It could be a weather foreseen problem, could be a logistic problem. Anything could happen. And that can throw up your reputation for quite some time. I think for any type of business, especially when it comes to events and community level events, I think it depends on the level of what I call goodwill capital. How much goodwill capital do you amass from your network before the event? And then how much do you trade across the event, and how much do you lose if things go wrong at the event? And I think there's a certain amount of levers that you can pull as an event organizer to make sure that you're always topping up that level of goodwill capital, whether it is, introductory discount prices to new sponsors, whether it is adding in free tickets to some of the colleagues, whether it is guesting people that are honestly a little bit up the creek in terms of where they should be, whether it's giving startups more benefits than they should do, whether it's actually offering guest tickets to all the investment community. There's plenty of levers you can have to actually utilize and top up your goodwill capital. But at some point, you're going to have to call that back, right? Because, stuff hits the fan. And so there's moments where, there are things happen that you can never understand. Things happen that you planned for, but they just get worse. But reality is you just have to keep on trying to deliver the absolute best experience for those that are involved. And if you mess up in any way, it's about how quickly you resolve that and how much value you add back quicker than you can.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I always think about the hardest thing about any kind of business is people. They're the most unpredictable thing. And I always imagine like circumstance where, maybe you have a panel of people and all of a sudden 2 weeks before, like there's a beef between two of the panelists due to, whatever, some business issue or personal issue. Right. And then you're like, oh shit. Like next, it's just, they're sitting up there, they're not talking to each other. I've physically seen some of this stuff like play out. Right. Or whatever. I mean, people are the hardest thing. So, when you're trying to gauge that, within an industry, especially, I think fitness is small. I think it is very well, like there's networks and clicks within the industry that I'm sure you know about. Like, tell me about the people part of it. Like, how do you manage that, or how do you handle it when problems arise?
Yeah, I mean, like to that point, like you can create the best schedule, you can create the best content, you can have the best moderators and the best panelists. The reality is, unless they're willing to be vulnerable and try and give the audience something, statistics, information, insight, authenticity, that perhaps they might not have alluded to before, the conversation can seem like, okay, I know this, Eric's told me this before, it's okay. And while I appreciate that does happen, the reality of any event, especially at a higher level, at C-suite, especially when it comes to investment, especially when it comes to political events, the real action happens on the sidelines. And so sometimes when people say, should I be there? Absolutely. Not just for the content on the stage. It's the interactions on the sidelines that really actually determine the success of the event. And if you're not there, you will never, ever be part of that. As for managing people, look, we deal with people and they are leaders. They are pioneers. They are visionaries. Some have very, very large egos. Some are incredibly humble. And some are inspirational, and some are maybe a mix of all three at some level. It is the speaker management, there's relationship management at all times. But I think it does come down to, why are they in the room? And are you serving them as best you can? And if they're there to get a message across and try and help the industry grow. And I think this is a really interesting point where, I think people in today's marketplace really want the marketplace to grow. And so they're willing to actually share more information than you think they're going to share, because they actually want the marketplace to grow, the industry to do better, more investment to be funneled in. By holding the cards close to their chest, that really happens. And so I think at some of these events, there is a level of very candid conversation that may not happen on stage, but absolutely happens off stage. But you need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I mean, every event I've attended over the last 3 or 4 years, it's the conversations I have in the hallway, right? Or you get pulled aside, or someone's like, hey, hey, you got to meet this person. Or where I say, hey, you got to meet this person. Next thing you know, it's business development, there's a partnership, there's a relationship. You can't get it online. We've tried, right? Over the pandemic, we tried. It just doesn't happen the way that it does at an in-person event. And I'm saying this as a person who actually, I didn't go to a lot of in-person events. I didn't see the point really for many, many years. I went to when I was a gym operator, I would go to ones that were educational, right? Like I would go extend my education. I would do coaching conferences. The actual stuff that I was really, really excited about that time was like human performance and program design and all that. And then, after I sold, I'm like, I don't really need to go to these. There's a networking event. That's stupid. What do you have to wear a name tag? And but I stand here corrected and saying that I really enjoy the events. I go into with such an open mind when I go to things like this, because, I try to keep my schedule actually fairly open, because I find that you want to be spontaneous many points during and that's exciting, right? I actually come back with kind of probably adrenaline low, like a dopamine low after these events, because they really do fire me up, and it's really engaging. So you're 100% correct, man. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, and we have extended networking breaks. We've got an hour of content, hour of break, hour of content, hour of break, because you have to try and foster an environment where you are colliding people together as often as possible. We've got a team there on site. They will pull people that are standing on their own, and we'll pull them into groups of people, because I think we have to realize that some people are great conversation starters, and some people are great conversationalists once you get them started in the conversation. And I think, like anything, people get a little bit rusty over the course of the pandemic. You're not used to walking up to random people. What is your normal non-business development pitch? What are the questions you ask someone about their family? Honestly, it's great to, okay, you told me all about your business. Thanks so much, right? But who is the person behind the business? And so I think that kind of deeper relationship development only happens when you have these kind of conversations face to face, and maybe you have them over the drink, maybe you have them over a coffee break in a dark corner of a room. But we do try and foster relationships that are long-term, not just for business development, but, for personal and social and professional development, inspiration and motivation and aspiration. These are all great reasons to attend an event, not just to make more money.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Maybe paint me a picture, put a little bit of a timeline on this. We're in 2024 now. So let's say, 2029, 5 years from now, like what's the vision for Beyond Activ? Like where do you want to be? What do you want this to look like?
Yeah, great question. It has evolved in the last couple of years, I think, with the digital offering. I think we will continue to grow our number of annually retained clients and even project retained clients in terms of helping them with their sales and marketing and business development efforts. We love that. I mean, we love nothing better. I mean, events are great, but, working on someone's product launch, working on someone's new management team launch, helping someone access a new geography or coming into a new market segment. We love working on those type of launches and expansions. We'll do that a lot more. We definitely will not do more events. I think the events will grow in scale. America significantly, Saudi Arabia significantly, Singapore to a degree, and Sydney is quite a small event in itself. So I think that will probably max out at 1,000 people. But over time, we've got other ideas. We're big fans of someone like Fit Insider, what Joe and Anthony do. Will we ever become a fund? No, that's not what we want to try and do. Will we ever become consultants and advisors? I'm not quite sure. Will we maybe just develop more of like an individual PR agency offering? I think that's highly likely in the next couple of years that we'll start to augment that into PR and into IR and offer those services both to our retained clients and on a one-off basis. Another one we looked at potentially is maybe becoming more of a kind of global executive search in terms of headhunting. That's maybe got another couple of years to try and finesse its way through. So there are avenues for growth, but in all honesty, I think, our main mission, and we can't deviate too much from it, is how to make the world happier and healthier. That's our driving mission. And I think for that to happen, we've got to make sure we reach more people with better content, that the events are better populated by more startups, the events are populated by government, and the events are populated by the absolute maximum amount of investors that we can possibly get to come to any event. And so I think with that mission in mind, it's about broadening our event scope to make sure we have more decision makers and more capital in the room, to make sure we have more government participation, and then to make sure the content distributes globally across all of our regions. In terms of other markets of interest, look, Middle East and Africa are certainly newly developing markets for health, fitness, and wellness. And we believe we can play a really exciting role in trying to catalyze that growth, to try and give them a spotlight, to try and give them a knowledge base and a connection point for them to meet other thought leaders in the marketplace. I don't think there is any physical business event in Africa that focuses on the African marketplace. It's not quite there yet, but I absolutely guarantee by 2029 it will.
Awesome. One of the things I wanted to get your opinion on, and you alluded to it earlier in this conversation, was like these major trends in the US, right? Longevity, GLP-1, the health span, there's a number of them. In the US, we tend to be a little US centric, kind of look at ourselves and don't pay a lot of attention to what's going on outside in these major regions. Like, you just blew my mind that there's, a 600 unit gym chain in India, like that I had never heard of, right? There's a typical example that we don't really pay attention. When you look at these major trends that we're always talking about here, AI, longevity, health span, GLP-1, like these things in the US, is that something that globally you're seeing as major trends as well? Or is it just us?
I think from the GLP-1, candidly, it's just you. I think at the moment in time with the Ozempic. I think when it comes to premium luxury end clubs like Lifetime and Equinox, there's a few models like those across, maybe there's David Lloyd, maybe there's Pure Group in Asia, Total Fusion in Australia, but there's not a huge proliferation of those types of clubs outside of North America just yet. I think what we are seeing is maybe some similar trends in the world that perhaps are not maybe healthcare related. So for example, one of them has been the absolute meteoric rise of franchise growth, especially across Asia Pacific and the Middle East. And that has been led in a large way by boutiques across the marketplace. And so the F45s, of course, the Fit Stops, the Body Fit Trainings, the KX Pilates, the Studio Pilates. I mean, these are all businesses that have got 100 plus clubs in it, 100 plus clubs in Australia, and then have naturally gravitated into different marketplaces. However, I think in the last maybe 6 months, I think the tables have turned somewhat. And instead of the boutique franchise growth being a major driver in the marketplace, I think what we're actually seeing now is the 24/7 established brands, Anytime Fitness, Basic Fit, Snap Fitness, really take a hold in some marketplace and push through. And so the major engine, especially outside of North America, as we see it in Asia Pacific, is actually no longer the big box club. It's actually the 24/7 gyms, the larger big box franchise clubs, and to a lesser degree now, the kind of independent and boutique franchise clubs that are really making a big play now. The other kind of larger owned and operated club chains across Asia Pacific have had a real time through COVID. They really struggled. The Chinese markets collapsed. The Japan market really consolidated down. A couple of the major players in Asia really had their wings clipped in terms of growth potential and had to consolidate some of their footprints. And so I think going forward, they're no longer the major driver of growth in this marketplace. It is done by these other market participants. So I think that's definitely one of the kind of growth areas we're definitely seeing. When it comes to technology, I think we're only just starting to scratch the surface, especially when it comes to the Asia Pac marketplace. When it comes to everything from CRM adoption to full stack tech adoption to AI adoption, I think there's been a few players that have dabbled, but most players are on the start of that journey. And so I think for us, technology adoption, especially AI adoption, I don't think we're any further forward than anywhere else in the world, but it'll be interesting to see how fast we catch up.
Yeah, interesting. When you look at the global market, like what particular market gets you the most excited? Like, where do you see the most action? Where do you see the most opportunity?
Look, I mean, let's just look at Saudi Arabia. I mean, I'm actually traveling there next week, Eric. I mean, we've got some great business there. We do an event there. Again, another sleeping giant that people don't know about is one called Lee Jam Sports Company. They run a club chain called Fitness Time. Now, Lee Jam Sports, last count, we're up to about 195 clubs across Saudi Arabia. Now, that might not seem like much, but their market capitalization currently in the Saudi Stock Exchange is $2.1 billion US. And so it actually puts them in the top 5 fitness businesses globally, alongside Lifetime, Basic Fit, obviously Planet Fitness as being one of the biggest club chains in the entire world when it comes to market capitalization. And so for me, Saudi Arabia, the scale of growth, the speed of growth, the number of companies coming into that marketplace, the excitement of the local community, the education of the local consumer, and the growing success of local brands versus international brands is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And the ambition and the capital and the speed of deployment is second to none. So for me, Saudi is an absolutely phenomenal market. We're very proud to be in there with our partners. In the next maybe 2 to 3 years, watch out.
Awesome. Last question for you, bud.
Yeah.
How can we help you as an industry? Like what's one of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now? If people are going to reach out to you and connect with you outside, of course, joining the events, what would you like to hear from them about?
Yeah, so like obviously we'd love to see them at the events, and for anyone that's joining us, you can get information online. I think what we have a responsibility to the marketplace is to share thought leadership. And so, for example, on a weekly basis, we release a free op-ed to the marketplace. It's a 400-word op-ed that we give out to entire distribution. It's 65,000 people we send that to every single Thursday. We then augment that with some social media and business media blasting as well. So if people want to contribute some free thoughts about a pressing topic in the business world, we would highly appreciate, hearing from them and adding that content in. The content is more about, again, it's more driven towards the challenges that are affecting business owners and operators. So perhaps it's not going to be, an explanation on what a GLP-1s are, but it would actually be a conversation around how to successfully integrate GLP-1s into your membership base. That's the kind of thought leadership article we would actually really love to cover. In addition, we host a monthly Zoom call with our leadership group. And we normally interview some world leaders across that. And so again, people are welcome to join that call, or perhaps if there's something really pressing, we could actually get them on that call to make sure they share some market wisdom with the market, share some wisdom with our market. So various ways in terms of content and thought leadership. Subscribe to the newsletter, join us at one of our events, Eric. And again, we're open to suggestion and conversation on how to make our offering better. So I look forward to talking to anyone that has a question, and I'm looking forward to seeing you somewhere around the globe soon.
Yeah, man. And where would you like people to go? Do you want to give out an email, contact?
Look, Beyond Activ. The active is no E at the end of it, beyondactiv.com. My email is simply Ross, ROSS, beyondactiv.com. And look, I appreciate the conversation as always, Eric. And I'm 7 years in the making. Let's make sure we don't take so long again. But again, we are incredibly grateful, sincerely grateful to those that are enabling us to try and do this mission. At the same time, we're sincerely grateful for people like you, Eric, for really flying a flag. Running a podcast it's not easy. We know this. Running any digital content business is not easy. And you persist in delivering content week after week, month after month, year after year. And so I'm sure it's been said a million times before, but if it hasn't, my friend, from all of us, thank you.
Oh man, I appreciate it. And Ross, I'm glad we made this happen. It's really always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll be in touch quite a bit, but definitely you'll see me in September. So yeah, really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Ross Stewart Campbell.